Hello everybody, this is Llodg, and today I am back with another tier list, and this is a movie tier list, unlike the games one I've done. And since it's May 4th and I didn't get my Republic Commando video done in time for it, I thought why not rank all the Star Wars movies? Yeah, we'll do this, and I want to preface this tier list by saying, if I place a movie down, that doesn't automatically mean it's bad. A tier list needs to have all its things filled out. And this is just my personal list, and you are very welcome to disagree with it. I'll just say that now, because Star Wars, there's going to be some disagreements on this one, I already know. And I'm going to be going in the order of when they released, so let's start with A New Hope, which I think is an easy S tier. Like, come on guys, it's New Hope. Think we're not going to have this in S tier? It's the first Star Wars movie. It's what kicked off like blockbusters in general, if not all the Star Wars stuff. So of course I'm gonna put it in S tier. It's so good. This is like the only movie you can watch on its own and get as much enjoyment out of it as watching all the other movies. Yeah, it's just really good. I don't know. It's like such an obvious pick that I feel like it's hard for me to explain, you know? Like some of the other ones I'll have like a bunch of details about it, but this one, it's just really good. The cast is really good. You got Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford. You got Alec Guinness, and you even got like James Earl Jones, who's like one of the best, has like one of the best voices ever. Like, come on, as Darth Vader, easy knock out of the park. Like, looking back, it's a little weird because it doesn't have as much Jedi stuff as I'd probably prefer in a Star Wars movie. But I feel like it works so well. You only have like one Jedi, and that's Obi-Wan, and he's supposed to be mysterious. We're not supposed to know really what it is. So not having like a bunch of fights of like lightsabers and stuff. You have like one lightsaber fight. I guess two if you include the Cantina one, but like a lightsaber on lightsaber fight. You got one. This is just the perfect movie, I gotta say. This is like the perfect Star Wars movie. Like, if you want to make a Star Wars movie, watch this one, which is kind of what they did for another one down the line, but, you know. And yeah, so I guess with that, let's move on to the second movie. Empire Strikes Back, also an S... No, you're an S tier. Okay, I gotta move these around. But Empire Strikes Back, I know it's a little early for me to say this, but this is my favorite Star Wars movie. And it's a lot of people's favorite Star Wars movie, but that's just because it's so good. Like, it expands on the original Star Wars A New Hope. But this is also the one that had so much to, like, fail at. Because the first movie is so good, it could have ended at just that movie. But of course they let loose ends open, like Darth Vader still being alive. They introduced the Emperor in this one, which is so cool. You have another big bad other than Darth Vader, someone who Darth Vader even kneels at. You know, the same Darth Vader who just straight up made Obi-Wan completely disappear. You get Yoda in this movie. Like, they are starting to expand what a Jedi is, and you get Yoda probably, at least in this movie, the best representation of a Jedi that we'll ever see. I just love all the Dagobah scenes. They are incredible. And just Yoda in this movie is probably my favorite Yoda that we'll ever see, just because I like that he's an old dude on a planet who is finally figured out the Force. And I'll talk about this in the prequels when I get to them. But I really like that we see him finally as a Jedi Master, like he should be. I think that is really cool. This is like also one of the most iconic movies for its like finale with Vader being Luke's father. That's still quoted today. Like 40 years after this movie came out. There's a reason. Like, yeah, it's so good. They expanded on all the characters. I could honestly go on about this movie so much. Like, the Luke and Vader fight is so good. One of my favorite fights in the whole Star Wars. And I think it works so well. They expanded Han and Leia. They had them do their own thing. You get to see more of Han Solo's backstory with like Lando and stuff. It's not like a flashback. But you can see a snippet of, hey, these guys used to know each other, or the Millennium Falcon used to be Lando's thing. And Lando, also a great character who I am glad kind of became a regular somewhat. More of a main character with Return of the Jedi, because I think he is really good as like a character, so I'm glad that they have him in here, and that he's good. They have Boba Fett, who has become a fan favorite character, who, despite not doing very much, people still like him. Honestly, it's hard for me just not to say everything, like every scene that I really like throughout this movie. Like, Hoth is cool, the asteroids are cool. It is also good, and also has one of the best fights of R2-D2 versus Yoda. And okay, on with that, we have the last of the original trilogy with Return of the Jedi. And this one might get moved later, but I think it's an A. It may get bumped down to B depending on how the other movies turn out, but I think A is a strong contender. I don't think it's as good as the other movies, but it's still really good. You get the whole saving Han Solo scene. Tatooine. I think returning to Tatooine is really cool. You get to see more of like the underground that was kind of hinted at in The New Hope. You get to see Jabba. You get to see all this stuff that was kind of hinted at. And I know that in the special editions, which is all I've kind of only seen of Star Wars is the special editions, because obviously I'm too young to have seen the original in theater Star Wars. But in the original, you don't see Jabba. You only kind of maybe hear about him. But seeing Jabba is really cool. You get to see Luke in his iconic Jedi Knight outfit, so iconic that in like every game set after this, he's in that black suit. It's just so iconic and good. I've said iconic like 3 times, but that's just what it is to me. They gave Luke a green lightsaber, the 3rd colored lightsaber, and the first one that's kind of different from the first 2 we saw in A New Hope. This movie started to open up what Star Wars really could be. And you also have like one of the best scenes with Luke trying to turn Vader, and then, you know, the whole fight that ensues when the Emperor's like, I'm gonna turn Leia instead. And then Luke just goes like absolute ham on Darth Vader. It's such a good scene. You have the Emperor with Ian McDiarmid, which was technically his first appearance if you don't count the special edition of him being in Empire Strikes Back. There's a reason he's like really beloved, and I think it starts from this movie, and obviously in the prequels he's like one of the best actors. I know a lot of people used to say they don't like the Ewoks, but I think they're fine. A little goofy, but you know. They had the second Death Star, which kind of started a trend, but you know. I think it was cool that it was a trap. It's cool that they tried to do something different with it while doing a similar thing. Like having it be a trap and be fully functional, and having it, like the lore, they're like, oh, it's way better in these certain ways. This goes for all the original trilogy movies, but I just love how they look. Everything about how the practical sets look in these movies are just so good to me. I don't think there's a setting that I dislike in any of these movies. I really like the ending. I think they did a good job with the ending, because they really could have messed it up. It may be the best ending of any of the trilogies. It leaves the world open for, like, at the time, Legends books, and now we have like Battlefront 2, like those stories. Back then you had like the Thrawn trilogy. And I'm actually reading, like, I read Heir to the Empire, and I'm gonna read the next book soon. But I thought that they did a good job. Like, there's enough here that other people could pick up the stories and keep going. And I think it's just because of how good of a job Return of the Jedi did. And without it, we may have not had that. And now for the next movie, we have Phantom Menace, and I got put in C. This is a boring movie that is really redeemed by its climax, I think. And when I say climax, I mostly mean the Obi-Wan Qui-Gon Darth Maul fight, because that is one of the best choreographed fights. Like, it's not my favorite fight in the series, obviously, but if you're just looking for a cool fight to watch, this is what you gotta watch. And that is like probably the best praise I'm gonna give this movie, because other than that, it's not great. I think the only other really great part is the pod racing. It was a very action-filled part of the movie. Very fast. There's not a lot of talking because the dialogue in this movie isn't very great. Everyone kind of talks in this, like, I don't want to say like Shakespearean way, but it's like similar to that, but not in a good way. And yeah, I just don't think the dialogue's very good. Most of the actors, I thought, weren't directed very well. Like, I think the best probably was Liam Neeson. And then you have Ewan McGregor, and in the prequels, he is a great actor. He's just not really, I don't think he gets a lot of time to shine here. But I really wish I got more time with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and it really could have been cool to have them be there together for a movie. And I get that they are really trying to almost prop up Qui-Gon to be Anakin's master, and then have him be taken away. And I really think it hinders the rest of the trilogy when we do not have Anakin and Obi-Wan be together for part of it. Just because of the ending, but I do think it's an interesting plot point that I wish was like expanded on a little more, because it's kind of just like, oh, that could have been. And I know a lot of people in the past really didn't like the CGI, but I think for a 1999 movie, the CGI holds up pretty well. Like, a lot of the alien designs look great. The only part that I can really think of off the top of my head that had like bad CGI was probably the Gungan versus droid battle at the end. And I think that just has to do with lighting, because the droids don't look like great there. Like, they definitely look CGI. And then I guess we'll go to Attack of the Clones. the worst prequel. This one probably should have been better, because it spawns one of the best Star Wars TV shows. Actually, two of the best, kind of, if you count both Clone Wars as their own thing, which they are. This is another movie that I really wish Anakin and Obi-Wan were together for the middle part, because they're there together at the beginning and they're there together at the end. I wish they were there in the middle. And this one had a lot of stuff to do with making Anakin and Padme a couple, because in the first movie they obviously couldn't really do that. So it's like, obviously they wanted to kind of like try to make their relationship like a thing, but I just don't like it too much. I don't know. One of the lines that was taken out and used for years was the sand line, and it came from this movie trying to make them a couple. I just wish it was better. It did spawn the clones, and I really like them in other things. And Kamino's a really cool planet. And honestly, all the planets and stuff in the prequels I really like. But yeah, you also have like Boba Fett being a clone, which is kind of weird in hindsight. It also has one of my favorite actors of all time, Sir Christopher Lee, as Count Dooku, Qui-Gon's master. And I so wish his story was better, because it can be so interesting of his fall. And we see it in Tales of the Jedi. And that's like one of my favorite Star Wars things ever, is seeing Count Dooku actually go to the dark side. And I wish that they had Christopher Lee in the first movie, because I love Christopher Lee. He narrated some of the Rhapsody albums. But this is like the worst finale out of maybe all the movies? But the fight is not good. Like Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Count Dooku, at a certain point becomes just them standing in front of a camera, swinging some light sticks. And yeah, you do get a cool fight with Yoda, and I know a lot of people don't want Yoda to have a lightsaber, but in my opinion, I think it makes sense for Yoda to have a lightsaber in the prequels, because the Jedi weren't very good in the prequels, so of course he's gonna be kind of more oriented to like war and stuff. He's not supposed to be this like perfect Jedi yet. That's for Empire Strikes Back. Also, Zam Wesell, such a missed opportunity. You have a changeling and they like only are a woman and then turn into an alien as they die. That's when you know the movie isn't great. And now we're on to the best prequel. And I only think it's a B. I know, before you start hating me, I've seen people put this in S. I've seen people put this in the number 1. But this movie is dragged down by a lot of the things that drag down the other 2 prequels. And that is bad dialogue and Anakin and Obi-Wan not having a great connection to each other throughout those other movies. And the same thing happens in this one. They're there at the beginning, they don't see each other in the middle, and then they come back together at the end. Why would you do that? I feel like it's moot now, because you can now see them in Clone Wars. But they weren't together very much, and I think it bogs down the big finale, which should have been one of the best fights ever, and I think it's a really good fight. Don't let any of what I'm saying really drag down from that it is a great fight, because it's one of my favorite fights ever. It just could have been better. This is the fight I would always do on LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, because it was so fun. I really like Ian McDiarmid in this movie. I haven't really talked about him in the prequels, and this is the movie I think he really shines with. He's the Chancellor, he's kind of controlling both armies. This is like the point where he's like, yes, I'm gonna get my moment to wipe out all the Jedi. And Order 66 is one of the best Star Wars moments. It's a good moment, it's a good betrayal. Grievous is also cool in this movie. I wish he was as cool as the 2D animated show. I wish he was as cool as he was there. But his fight with Obi-Wan's pretty cool, so. But Anakin turning into Darth Vader, I think, was a pretty good moment, where you get Luke and Leia. And yeah, this is also the best movie acting-wise. Like, I think Natalie Portman did a wonderful job. And I should have said this in the Attack of the Clones, but this is where Ewan McGregor is really good. And then he carries it into this one. He also has his best like hairstyle in this one, because they keep changing his hairstyle. Hayden Christensen, also pretty good. We also get Kashyyyk, which before this was called like Kashyyyk, which is crazy. But yeah, I think it's pretty good. I like that they kind of hint towards A New Hope. They got a lot of throwbacks. They're like, hey, look at the Death Star game built, and it's like 10 years in the future, or I guess 20 years. Yeah, I just think this is the best of the prequels, but I don't think it's top 3 and definitely not top 1 for me. Oh, this movie also contains one of the scenes that I like grabbed onto as a kid, and it was Yoda going to Dagobah. I don't know why I really latched onto that moment. That's a weird thing to end this on. But now we're gonna go to the last, I guess this isn't the last prequel movie because you got Rogue One. But you got Star Wars The Clone Wars. I think it may be enough. This could get bumped up to C, but I do not like this movie. It is not good. It is 4 Clone Wars episodes scrunched together. And I know what you may be thinking, but some of the best Star Wars was 4 Clone Wars episodes tied together. But this isn't that. This is early Clone Wars. This is before Clone Wars got good. Because Clone Wars at the beginning wasn't that great. And it has a great cast in this one. I think it also even includes Christopher Lee and maybe Samuel L. Jackson. I'll put it on the video if I'm wrong. But it's a good cast. You got James Arnold Taylor as Obi-Wan and Matt Lantner as Anakin. And I think they are good for the Clone Wars. I just don't like this movie too much. Honestly, this is like one of my least watched movies of Star Wars. They got him finding Jabba's kid. Isn't that exciting? You do get Ahsoka, but again, Ahsoka isn't great in this movie. It's really hard because I love Ahsoka. This is also when Clone Wars is kind of ugly. And like the main art style has definitely stayed. Like they didn't like radically change anyone's like designs other than like clothing they would wear. But the lighting does not help this movie. I do think that they have a clone punch a droid, so maybe that gets bumped up to C because of that. And now we move on to the Disney era Star Wars with Force Awakens, and this is hard. I really like this movie. I think it goes in B though. I think it is a strong B movie because the acting is really good. The sets and like overall design of everything is really good. The actors are like amazing. I don't think that there's an actor in this movie, of the main cast at least, that I don't like. I know a major criticism for this movie is that it is a New Hope again, but I realized that the first time I watched this movie. So I don't really like that criticism. Because if I don't see it when I first watch a movie, and I have to have someone tell it to me, then like, what's next? I accept a YouTuber's opinion? No thank you. And they were obviously trying to play it safe with this movie, because obviously the last trilogy of Star Wars movies wasn't well received. So I feel like they wanted to go safe. J.J. Abrams directed, and I think he was a pretty good choice for a director, though obviously you shouldn't ask me what director I would have chosen, because I don't have a real answer for you, because I don't know directors all that well. But yeah, you have Kylo in his mask, and I love his like voice modulation. I think that's cool. You got Harrison Ford, and I think he's good in this movie. And I know Harrison Ford doesn't like to play Han Solo and talk about him. And I think his death was good. I think it really firmly cemented Kylo as someone that you can hate because of what he did, and not just like you should hate him. And I really like Rey in this movie. I think Daisy Ridley is a great actress. She's like one of the best parts of the sequels in my opinion. And I think she's good here. And I know a lot of people don't like her because she seems to be too powerful, but you got stuff like Chewbacca shooting Kylo Ren with his bowcaster and stuff like that to kind of like explain stuff. But I just don't really agree with people calling Rey a Mary Sue. But yeah, you have Finn, and this is his probably best movie just because they didn't push him to the side. But they do end with this, with him being knocked out, which I think was a bad decision because he couldn't go with Rey to go see Luke. And yeah, this movie was just like a bunch of like mysteries about stuff. Like you have mysteries of why Luke's gone, why Kylo's the way he is, who are the Knights of Ren. We're not going to know who they are, but they're cool. You have like, who's Snoke? Snoke was cool. I don't 100% agree with some people on their opinion of Snoke. I do think he's interesting in this movie, to say the least. Poe Dameron's also cool. Also, another mistake, in my opinion, is not having Poe Dameron and Rey meet in this movie. It's so weird. Phasma could have been really cool in this movie. Phasma was like a really cool part of this movie for me because I really liked her, and I still need to read her book. But she could have been so good, and it's a fumbling of a different movie. Also, Force Awakens was the first Star Wars movie that I got to go see in person, and I saw it at the midnight release, and I really enjoyed that. And that's why that movie has a really special place in my heart, even if it is in B. Also, C-3PO has a red arm in this movie. But yeah, I think overall, a good movie. And now on to Rogue One. I think Rogue One may be an A-tier movie. Not that good. Rogue One does a lot of really cool things with like its world building and everything. I like Jyn Erso. I like pretty much the entire, I guess they're called Rogue One, but a lot of them are forgettable, and I think they're forgettable for a reason, obviously. This movie's a lot like Halo Reach, and I love Halo Reach, so obviously I'm gonna kind of like it. And I know a lot of people don't like the movie up until the ending, but I enjoyed the whole movie. You got Saw Gerrera, who was really cool, I thought. You got the Death Star, and honestly, I'm really glad we got to see the Death Star from the ground. Best shots ever. Like when they're leaving, I forget what planet it is, but it's the planet with the kyber crystals. And it's like they're trying to outrun the whole shockwave. So cool. In the climax, one of the best ones ever. Like, you could just have that part as the whole movie, and it could possibly be S tier. It is that good. Them racing against time and trying to infiltrate this highly secure base to get the Death Star plans out to the rebels. Yeah, it's just really good in my opinion, I think. And it also gave rise to one of the best TV shows, which I still need to watch. I promise I'll watch it soon. And yeah, it also has the best Darth Vader scene. And I'm really glad that we have like one scene of him being really cool. And I don't think we need like a billion scenes of that. And also this movie has like CGI people, like with Tarkin and Leia. And I gotta say, my first viewing, I didn't really notice that they were like I knew that they were CGI because obviously. So I thought it was pretty good. And now watching it back again, I'm like, oh, now I really can see that they're more CGI than probably I thought at that first time. But I think for CGIing people, this one did pretty good. Some movies are not able to do that, but this one, they did it. And okay, are you guys ready for a controversial pick? Last Jedi, I think, is an A tier. Alright, is everyone calm down? Are we all gonna listen to why I think it's an A tier? I think it's an A tier because I think the main plot is really good and really interesting. I know a lot of people don't like it, and that is 100% fine. You are more than welcome to call me dumb for liking this movie so much. I saw this movie in IMAX. Also midnight release, funny enough. I remember waiting with my friend and his dad was all dressed up as a rebel pilot. But I really enjoyed this movie. And I think the main plot with Rey and Kylo and Luke is really good. And now obviously the big thing in the room is going to be Luke's kind of... People say it's like disservice to this character. And now I don't agree with that. Because for one, we don't really see the full story of why he ran away. We see like a snippet of it. And first of all, I think it could be fixed, quote unquote fixed, if you have a Clone Wars like TV show to kind of be more in depth with it and kind of build that part of the story more, like they did with the Clone Wars show. And it looks like they may be kind of heading towards that with like the Mandalorian and stuff, but I don't really know if they'll do that. I'm really hoping they'll have like a Jedi Academy type show with Luke, like maybe have it be animated so you don't have like Luke being weird. I think it can honestly make sense, and a part of it, and this is my headcanon for why I like this movie, which may be a dumb reason to like a movie, but I always thought it's because Luke got similar visions as Anakin got in Revenge of the Sith, where Anakin saw Padme dying. Luke could maybe see visions of Kylo becoming Kylo, him being basically the next Darth Vader, and obviously the dreams should be more exaggerated, like Kylo being way worse than Darth Vader or something, to where Luke feels like he needs to end this now. Because if he can't turn Kylo and all this stuff happens, it's gonna be his fault. But then Luke at the end realizes, no, I ain't gonna do that. I'm not gonna do what I did to my father in Return of the Jedi because I have grown and I've realized I'm not gonna do that. Now, obviously, he makes the mistake of turning on the lightsaber for a short time, getting seduced by the dark side. Really wish that we got a short animated movie or a TV show to kind of really expand that. Like we can see Kylo becoming more seduced by the dark side and becoming more of what we know him as by Snoke and then what will eventually be Palpatine. Right now we don't have that, so if you don't like this movie, I totally understand that. And yeah, I thought the acting was once again really good. But we also get some weird lines, like the Rose line. I get what she's saying, but I don't know if we need that in Star Wars. And then honestly, all the Rose and Finn stuff. No, I don't hate Rose. It ain't her fault for her part of the movie not being great. But man, I wish her part of the movie was better. Them going to that like casino world. Honestly, the worst part of the movie. To where I'm like, what are we even doing? And I like that they had the traitor kind of be there. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, it also has another mistake of Finn defeating Phasma in this movie. I think they should have waited to the next movie for him to do that. Because Phasma could have been really cool, and we just don't see her. It is so disappointing. I hate to say it, because Finn could have been one of my favorite Star Wars characters, and they just didn't have him do anything really cool after Force Awakens. But yeah, I still really like this movie. Maybe I'm just being weird and blocking out the parts that I really don't like. Honestly, I like that fight scene with the Red Guards. Are they called like Praetorian Guards? I like that fight. I know a lot of people bash it because of its weird choreography, and I agree they probably should have cleaned up the choreography a bit before shipping the movie. But I like Snoke dying. because I don't think he needed this grand backstory, because it kind of showed that he was not great like Palpatine. He thought he was in control, and he wasn't. I also just kind of like Snoke's vibe. The Red Room is so cool in his like gold, I don't know what you call that, clothing. I really like that. Really good design. I kind of wish this movie ended with Rey being on Kylo's side and them trying to do something different, but then I also don't know if that really would have worked out the way I would have wanted it to. And yeah, the ending scene with Luke, another like top tier Star Wars scene. Him coming in as like a ghost, like Vision, so cool. Crate is just a really cool designed planet, I thought. It really makes for some amazing shots that are really good. Also, I do really like the connection with Rey and Kylo. They kind of do a little bit more in Rise of Skywalker, and I don't think it works as well. But them being like force bonded, like Bastila and your player character were, and KOTOR, I thought was really cool. And I wish they did a little bit more with it. But also, I think it was a mistake to split up all the main characters. So we're on to another movie, Solo. I think it's a C tier. Now, I worked in a movie theater when this movie came out, and this movie went up against Infinity War, Deadpool, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Tag. So it was up against a lot of really good movies. And I remember this movie not being the most filled out in the theater. And I wish that this movie didn't do so bad that it killed the rest of like the spin-off movies in between the big number movies. Because I don't think it's that bad of a movie, and I wish we got more Solo movies. I thought the cast was good. I thought casting for young Han Solo and young Lando, both amazing picks. Donald Glover, really good Lando. I really hope that we see him again, because I don't know if we will. I'm a little worried that we won't, but if we do, I think he's doing something like a Lando TV show or something. I really hope so. Maybe we get Han Solo in there too. I like this movie. It's a nice heist movie. This movie was also really dark, and not in like a themes and mood kind of way, just kind of like they forgot to brighten up some of the scenes. And that really hurts this movie, because I hate not being able to see stuff. I think this movie went through some development troubles, which like I hate. We could have got a better movie possibly if there weren't as many troubles, but could have been better. They had Darth Maul, and I know a lot of people didn't like Darth Maul being in this movie because he already died when the movie came out in Rebels. So it's just kind of like why do we need to see him again? We already kind of knew what he was up to. I kind of like that they're like, yeah, he was a crime boss. He was, doing what he's doing. I get people see it as like a cameo, but I kind of think of it as like this is just what was happening in the world. We are finally on to the last Star Wars movie. After like an hour of talking, I didn't think I was going to talk this long about these movies. I'm going to be honest. And are you ready for another controversial pick? Rise of Skywalker. I'm just kidding, it's got to be an F tier. But I think it's top of F tier. And I know a lot of people, understandably, hate this movie. I wish it was better. You see, like the third movies, they're kind of near the top, because the third movies kind of tie things together and can make previous movies better. But this one does not. This one did my worst fear for this movie. And that was take what they had in The Last Jedi, and since people didn't like it, kind of throw it out and try to fix it. And that is exactly what they did here. And it is probably the biggest mistake. They turned Rey from a nobody into a Palpatine. Something I don't think needed to happen. I think the whole story may have been even better if Rey wasn't a Palpatine. Not everyone needs to come from this big lineage of powerful people. Honestly, I think it hurts this movie. But I don't think it matters that much in the grand scheme of me not liking this movie. They also didn't have Kylo be the main bad guy. They had Palpatine back. They actually brought Palpatine back. Somehow he returned. And I don't think that line would get memed on if they kind of explained it more in a way people would understand way of how he returned. Because this may be a controversial take. Palpatine returning isn't the worst thing in the world if they explained it properly and didn't just get kind of shoved into at the beginning of the movie. Because the beginning of the movie really feels like, crap, we can't have Kylo be the main bad guy because we want to redeem him. But Palpatine cloned himself like in the comics. And honestly, I think that's kind of cool. I like when fantasy stories have crazy crap like that, where people return. And I also like his design for this movie. I think him being gross works out so well. And I wish, at the end of this movie, instead of all the voices Rey hears, she saw possibly Force ghosts. And they should have had Anakin be behind Rey. You could have Palpatine see Anakin, younger Hayden Christensen, looks better than Darth Vader did at the end of Return of the Jedi, and be like, oh crap, I was trying to become this ultimate Sith who could live forever, And my apprentice, Anakin Skywalker, was able to do it with the light side. That's like all the only things I like. I like the little dumb theories I have. Once again, I think people did the best they could. There were some really weird lines, but unlike Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace, they are at least directed well to say the lines, which is why I think it's above the Clone Wars and Attack of the Clones. I really thought I was gonna like the fight with Rey and Kylo and like the sea/rain on that weird planet. There was no good music. Like, I even wish he like remixed old stuff. It seemed like that's what was gonna happen in the trailers where they have like Duel of the Fates. I will give a fight a lot of leeway if it has some cool music. This movie really didn't have very much of that. Adam Driver's probably the best in this movie, I think. His turn is really good. Another upside to this movie is that the full cast of heroes are together for the whole movie. Finally, I can't believe Poe met Rey at the end of Last Jedi. I think they all kind of bounce off each other and kind of work. And it would have been interesting to have another movie with them, but I doubt we'll get that. I know Rey has her own movie, but I don't know how much of the cast is returning for that. They got Lando, he's pretty good in this movie. They have Chewbacca dying and then being like, nah, he's not dead. Tricked ya for 5 seconds. I like C-3PO losing all his memories and then getting them back 5 minutes later. They should have just had him not have it. And you could have R2-D2 telling them the whole story, because I think he has all his memories from Phantom Menace up to this point. The whole quest is a little dumb, but I always thought that the knife fixed up to it because it was a spaceship and it would survive decay in the atmosphere, but I don't know if that's true. There's like a time when Rey and Kylo are kind of like in that like mind battle where they can like almost see where the other is at for a little bit, and like Rey kind of catches something. I don't know. This movie has a lot of stuff that's like not really explained, like the force healing, and force healing is the stuff in the games. It can make sense for it to be here, but then when you have other stuff, it doesn't really make sense. And then you have stuff where like Kylo like grabs the lightsaber out of thin air from Rey, and it's like, that's a little weird. I wish Kylo didn't die in this movie. An interesting kind of fan thing I saw was that like Kylo survives and kind of has to rebuild without Rey, and almost have to do it like, yeah, he kind of caused this, but he gets to rebuild the Jedi Order and kind of fix his mistakes. But I also just wish Rey wouldn't have died, so it's like, oh man, who'd I, like if one or the other has to go. I wish this movie was better. There's a lot that I can kind of enjoy from this movie as like a dumb thing. I just like Palpatine being back. I think it makes sense if you're having 3 trilogies for him to be the villain in all of them. And it kind of hurts Last Jedi by Palpatine not being there. I think The Last Jedi should have ended with a Palpatine reveal almost. Now obviously they didn't have a story planned out, which they should have had a story planned out. I don't get why they didn't make a basic thing and then kind of be like, we can change some elements depending on fan reactions / how well we think it performed. But they should have had just like a basic, like, this is the plot we want to follow, because it seemed like every movie someone new would get in and write it and be like, this is what we're doing. And then it leads to stuff like rewriting, which I think hurts movies ultimately. I think Rey saying she's a Skywalker at the end, not that big of a deal. I think it's more of like a, your name really shouldn't matter to you, and Rey probably should have said, I'm just Rey and not I'm Rey Skywalker. Well, just kind of her saying, hey, I'm not Rey Palpatine. My lineage doesn't define me. I'm gonna choose my own lineage, and I'm gonna carry on the name of the people I love the most. Of Luke, of Leia, of Ben Solo. Even though Ben Solo, you know, it's kind of his lineage name, but I think it's just her trying to move on from what kind of defined her for a moment in the movie. And yeah, those are my picks these are like my rankings for all the Star Wars movies. I'm kind of happy with them. I think you can make some adjustments here and there and like move some stuff down to like B. Like Rogue One should move down to B just to make B the bell curve, but you know, I'll keep it an A because I like it. Let me know what your thoughts are. I know people probably will hate me for Last Jedi and Revenge of the Sith being where they are. So I hope you enjoyed the video, have a good day, and goodbye!